One thing I really like about this bank is how much everyone genuinely cares about their customers and about the community and about each other. Always trying to put ourselves in the customer's place. What would I expect if I were the customer? And then we try to take it up a few notches from there. And it's kind of like being part of the family when you're banking with us.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, we'll run through a somewhat brief agenda today. Then we've got a presentation that Sonia would like to do for you, kind of follow up on the public information campaign for the handheld cell phone ordinance that's about to come into play. She'll do that, and during that, if y'all have any comments, questions, suggestions, please feel free to jump in. But going back to the starting point, the minutes of last week. And I guess for those that were here from last week, comments, corrections?
I had to make sure you said I wasn't.
You didn't read the paragraph when you both of you all. It was unanimous.
I didn't.
3-0.
And moving on to item number 2, Mayor, Ordinance 7376, second and final, creating the reinvestment zone number 8. Of course, initially this would be for Bell to come back to you for a possible abatement, but additionally covering the AEDC-owned lands out there, which clears step 1 for any future businesses that might choose to relocate.
Yeah.
Kelly, any changes? Commission, any questions?
No comments.
All right. Item number 3, Ordinance 7377, second and final, on a zoning change. This is that new addition that's being built out kind of on the northwest corner of Quail Creek, and this is to allow the garden homes, the zero-lot homes. Changes on it? Calls, questions? Commission?
No.
Item number 4, second and final, over the vicinity of Ridgecrest and Western, a rezoning, and this is to amend an existing specific use permit, and this is for the daycare that's already on site. And I know last week we had at least one comment from the neighborhood that had been addressed. Kelly, do we have any more?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if this gentleman will be here today, but it was from a neighbor that lived. It's not the same one that had their letter concerning last time. But
The letter was across the alley.
right. Well, this guy lives right next to him, and he said that he came up for a city commission meeting to listen to this. And this is just for your information. And he said he didn't hear anybody talk about it, and wanted to know why did we advertise it. And then when he came up here, made the effort to come up here, why wasn't it on the agenda when we said it would be? And after about 10 minutes of going back and forth, finally figured out he came the Tuesday right after the Monday's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. 24 hours later. And so I explained to him that it was actually for the agenda the following Tuesday. And he just seemed to be a little upset about it. And he said he may or may not be here today. But
well, our requirement is for us to have a 3-day notice just like them. Is it 72 hours worth?
yes, it is.
So we would have no ability to do that even if we wanted to.
He said that he didn't really remember what it said on his notice, but he saw it. He thought he saw it in paper, and he didn't have any problem with the actual zoning. He was just upset about the process, and he thought we weren't very clear on when it was. And so I just wanted to let you know we had a conversation today.
Okay.
So can we go, because I wasn't here last week, can you tell us a little bit about and what the complaint was last week?
The guy across the alley. Diapers.
Okay.
In the dumpster.
Diapers in the dumpster.
They thought it would create more of that,
care center.
but we have the ability to add a dumpster with Kelly's.
He had a comment that actually said he was concerned about his property values being negatively affected, but most of what he talked about on the phone was that the dumpster, he didn't like the diapers in the dumpster that he was using. We told him that if that was a problem, that we could always look at providing another dumpster, but we couldn't tell somebody who couldn't use a public dumpster in the alley. And we could work those issues out if that really was an issue.
And he was okay okay with that?
Seemed to be. But the gentleman I talked to today,
He did not come to the meetings.
Oh,
There was no comment.
Oh, okay.
It was a pre-comment.
a letter and a phone call.
We had no problem.
There are rare locations like this where a commercial use shares an alley with a residential use. And every so often it does come up. It's usually not that specific. It's just business XYZ is filling my residential dumpster with their cardboard boxes. And we are able to add a dumpster. Usually we won't add a pickup. We'll prefer to actually add a dumpster to accommodate that.
Sure, we put in diaper dumpster.
We did the
We
exact
haven't
same
bought
thing
any
for
of
a
those,
dentist
Mayor.
office. We had a dentist office that orthodontist who had that kind of problem with his alley, and we put up for Michael's.
And this,
Solid Waste put out an extra dumpster over there. Everybody's happy.
they're just asking to expand this daycare center. They're not asking to create one that's not there.
Correct.
Okay.
They've got an existing specific use permit to allow this. They're wanting to increase the capacity.
It's not large.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Item number 5, ordinance 7379, second and final for a new associate judge for your municipal court, such being Miss Linda Crawford. And we fixed it where it said India Crawford.
It's not in there?
It is India. The first ordinance said India.
Oh. But when I made my motion, I made it in there.
You were correct.
As usual.
Duly noted. Mayor, item number 6, appointments, boards, and commission. This was the newest created vacancy on the Traffic Commission. As you know, Mr. Leon Church submitted his letter of resignation. He will soon take his seat as the new Potter County Commissioner. We had a name last week to put forth for your consideration. However, as we went through the eligibility, the gentleman lives just outside the city limits for the name that we had, so we'll have to start back over on that one. We can talk more about that later if you'd like.
So we'll just skip that?
Please, just skip it. No action.
So, in the meeting itself, when it's been posted, you can't just skip it. You could just skip it.
It's only here so you may talk about it, but you don't have to. You can say, no action will be taken today, next time.
And I don't have something else pending, so
Well, I can
wouldn't
imagine how we
suggest
can
taking-
utilize that approach.
We'll bring you one next week.
I get cynical here.
80 people there say, well, we're not going to discuss that. Thank you very much.
That might not go over quite the same as this one.
I don't want to talk about that.
We're going to hold that for a day.
talking about that.
Make sure you don't try that at home.
It works with kids. Yeah. Consent agenda, item A, data backup appliances. This is a project from Mr. Brown and his group to get us off the old tape drive backup systems. And of course, near and dear to all our hearts, 20% savings versus this.
Like that, yeah.
Next two items, I'm sorry, any questions on that?
No. Anything to save space?
Item B, Airport East Terminal Drainage
I
Project.
don't like the commissioner using the word savings in relation to computers. I still can't find any savings.
Space.
Saving space.
Instead of reels, they'll have this.
East Terminal Drainage Project. This is the professional services for such. Walk you back to July of 2010. Of course, we had the flood, filled up the basement. Ultimately, roughly a $9 million repair, well over half of which was on the builder's risk policy, and the remainder was picked up by your city's insurance carrier. Since that time, several improvements have been made or are being made. You'll remember part of the Terminal Drive projects where we had that upper and lower deck torn up for so long. We were able to put in some additional capacity for the origination of those storm sewers. And then currently under construction is a big temporary retention pond out there by where you can see the radar that's going on. all that drains what is generally the west half of the airport. There is a part of that terminal building from the original design that sheds that water to the northeast if you look at it on the map. This is a project to identify solutions to move that water away from the building, temporarily hold it, and then release it into the existing system to get it out. Of course, the FAA wants it done. Obviously, our insurance carrier wants it done. The FAA will help pay for it, so this is the first step in doing so.
Good.
We've had one flood since the building opened in '72, but it was a pretty rough event. Any questions on that one? Probably actual construction on that based on FAA funding a year away, or a fiscal year away. Item C, airfield electrical equipment and lighting systems upgrade. This also is the professional services or the engineering. The large part of the electrical system on the big runway, 422, that's your original Air Force lighting. The lighting is called the vault. I think y'all may have seen it. It's the building that has the emergency generator for the airfield and all that stuff out there. As with anything that's aged, we need to begin a project to start replacing that and upgrading it. And this will get us started down that road. Also funded by the FAA.
The lights on the runway aren't, I guess it's just what operates the lights.
Just what operates.
When they made us cut back 50 feet on each side, we didn't have to move the lights.
Well, we didn't. They would like for that to be a 200-foot wide runway, and it's actually a 300-foot wide runway. What you may be remembering, Mayor, back when you were first on the commission, we had the project to go in and caulk those joints.
They won't pay for the extra 100.
They didn't pay for the extra 100 feet.
I hope we're paying for it.
We did.
Good.
We did, and that also kept the lights from having to be pulled in, because that would be very, very disruptive to take those lights that are out today on the edge and trench them in 50 feet on either side towards the middle of that runway.
And the runway is 42 inches thick in some areas, down to 27 inches or so. I mean, that'd be an unbelievable project.
Why would they not want to just let
They want a consistency when you come out of the clouds. They want a consistency of what your view would be when you come down. Because if it's wider, you think it's farther away than it is. Yeah. That was their rationale, but it's just idiotic. It's just idiotic.
Total amateur, I want them to have as much space to get that plane.
The way it is now, you can about land sideways on it. Right? I don't keep it that way.
You can with last you live.
Yeah, you can with mine. You can do that.
Yeah.
For the record, not a habit we recommend.
Exactly.
No, you get in trouble for that.
So just continuing those improvements out there, and good opportunity, and of course taking advantage of the FAA's 90% funding.
Yep.
Questions on your agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask Sonia to come up. And this has been through the Traffic Commission and has met with staff and has put together packets, and I think we're ready to start laying out the details here. So,
all right.
What's your TV with?
I wonder if I have to press this button again.
Fortunately, we have the entire IT staff here to
To make sure it works.
You'd think I'd be qualified to use remote control.
See, that's not even IT there. It's
Okay.
just a TV television, isn't it?
Click.
Now, dude.
Quick. On.
Okay.
Has to be on.
All right, we got to make sure it comes up before I can start.
We used to have audio visual.
That was reel to reel.
James, I did it. Hooray. All right.
No, that does bring her.
Part of the education campaign IT.
Get up there.
All right, I've got some packets for y'all that I'll pass out after the presentation because I'd like to go through what's in it first. But as you all know, this commission, the ordinance to ban the handheld cell phones while driving was approved by this commission in early September, but it will not go into effect until required signs have been erected at the city limits and other locations throughout the city. I did speak with Michael Padilla this morning, and they're out there today all week long putting the signs up. Already sent me a few pictures of those signs. And city limits are where they're going up today and probably tomorrow. They may have to work through until Saturday to get the other ones throughout the city up. They're going to be at places like the libraries, the fire stations, but those are going up this week. So we expect them to be up by the end of the week, Saturday at the very latest. Once it has been verified with the city secretary, Francis over there, that those signs are installed, the ordinance will be formally published twice before taking effect 10 days later. Police will begin enforcement, and they're going to issue warnings to drivers during the first 30 days, and we have verified that with Chief Taylor. While signage and enforcement are going to be important parts of implementing the ordinance, the education campaign will be instrumental as a behavioral change agent.
Look, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Right there? On this warning, this grace period, if you will, will they issue a warning citation, or will they keep record of that? Because I can see you warning somebody 18 times
Within the 30 days.
within the 30 days.
And that may happen, but I think if you're going to offer this 30-day period, just as we did when the photographic traffic signal thing went into effect, I don't know that we want to parse that. Either the grace period.
See, the honor is off. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, day 31, it's going to be different.
Right on.
So does a warning mean don't do that again, or does warning mean here I'm writing you to?
I think that would be at the officer's discretion, and you'll likely see both.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't matter.
we've also, well, I'll let her finish. But
Okay. I just,
Those are good questions. Well, in my research on educating the public about campaigns similar to the one we're implementing, I've learned that there is a lot of marketing material out there. As you can see behind me here, there's this one from distraction.gov. It's called didn't have enough coffee today. One text or call could wreck it all. Either that or too much coffee. And so I really like this one. I looked at a lot of different websites out there, and this one really conveys the message that this commission, as well as the Traffic Commission, is trying to convey, because it's not just one text or just one call, it's both. So this really says it all with one text or call could wreck it all. So this is from distraction.gov. It's the official U.S. government website for distracted driving. It is funded by the U.S. Department of Transportation as well as the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We have access to all the marketing materials designed around the one text or call could wreck it all campaign. And materials available for our use free of charge include downloads of campaign starter kits, television PSAs in English, radio PSAs in English and Spanish, flyers, brochures, logos like the one behind me here, pledge forms, drop-in news articles, and op-ed pieces, press releases, and a lot more. Now, if I can just get my computer to download some of that stuff, I'll be doing great. I might have to call on IT again.
How does that fit with our concern that we explain to people clearly that you can use your phone, you just can't use handheld? Because I'm getting a lot of questions about that. People do not understand that.
And she'll get into some additional components with pre-printed FAQ sheets, handouts for school districts, civic clubs, media. We're going to try to hit that all, and when we finish, certainly any questions we have. But Marcus, we've heard that, Mayor. There was a misprint in the Sunday paper that said you couldn't use a cell phone at all.
Yeah.
No, you can. It's handheld is the question. And then the other question we've received to staff has been about whether you exempted all your city employees. And no, we haven't.
and us.
And yourself. And I'll let Marcus, I gave you all a little of that information in your write-up. Marcus is going to parse that apart and literally and deliberately explain what that is. So, sure.
Okay. Excuse me.
That's all right. Every campaign, as you know, needs a single, consistent message to drive home the point, and one text or call could wreck it all certainly covers the important safety message you all have been working hard to convey over the last several months. That singular, consistent message will need to be delivered through a variety of outlets. And the mayor and I were talking about a few of those earlier. Some of those outlets may be paid, but I see the vast majority of our education campaign to be a community-wide effort that goes that gets everyone involved, from civic organizations to the school system to businesses and many others. It will take the support of the entire community to deliver the message that if you use a handheld cell phone while driving, the consequences could be far worse than just getting a ticket. To that end, we will provide marketing materials, tools, and resources to our education partners. In addition to the city's website, we are looking to departments within our organization to help spread the word, including locations at City Hall like utility billing, building safety, and community development. Information about the handheld cell phone ban while driving will also be available at Transit, the Public Health Department, and all public libraries in Amarillo. The agencies and organizations out there that also can help us quickly and effectively spread the word that Amarillo cares about the safety of its citizens are utility companies like Xcel, Atmos, Suddenlink, TxDOT, the Department of Public Safety, all of the ISDs, including Amarillo, Bushland, Canyon, Highland Park, and River Road, Amarillo College, West Texas A&M, the Amarillo Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, cell phone companies, and of course they're already on it because I'm sure they're selling Bluetooth to people like me. I have one that rings into 2 phones. The Amarillo Association of Realtors and others will also provide flyers and articles to anyone wishing to support the city in this important education endeavor. There will be a need for paid advertising as well, particularly through the first few months of the campaign. Marketing research has shown time and time again that a message has to be heard at least 3 times by an individual before it actually takes root. Maybe more for others.
That's sad.
Like myself. Because of that, we will focus paid advertising mostly on television, but as budget allows, we will also do our best to include newspapers, radio, mail inserts, outdoor advertising, magazines, and other marketing avenues. In addition to the paid advertising, we will work with our local news organizations to develop partnerships and opportunities to keep this topic at the forefront of everyone's minds. And finally, city staff and traffic commission representatives, I've already got a few volunteers, will be available to address business and civic groups on the consequences of using a handheld cell phone while driving. And if any of you would like to volunteer for those engagements as well, I'm taking names today. But not at this second, so no pressure. Other measures we can take while working together include sending letters to the editor stressing the importance of safe driving. We can schedule times to talk on our local radio stations during peak drive time hours. We can encourage our local media to publish or air public service announcements. As you can see, the opportunities are endless, but we need to get started as soon as possible before the enforcement phase even begins. Public education can do more than just inform people of the dangers of using a handheld cell phone while driving. It can also create an environment for change. Over the last 20 to 30 years, and this is something we've heard in this room a lot, and I believe it, the Click It or Ticket campaign has been hugely successful. Even so, when seatbelt laws first went into effect, they were met with significant resistance. I think the important things to remember here are that the ordinance banning the use of a handheld cell phone while driving is not about government intrusion, like we've heard a lot out there. If you read the comments on the newspaper websites or on Facebook, there's a lot of that. And there's also a lot of talk about generating funds for the city. And that's obviously not what this ordinance is about. It's about saving lives. And our officers aren't eager to write these tickets. However, they certainly don't want to have to respond to a wreck. So this is about safety and saving lives, and that's the message this campaign will deliver.
You lost it.
It's back.
Oh, I lost it long ago. Commissioner Sims, long ago. Okay, in these packets I have for you the beautiful one texter called Could Wreck It All logo. I have a back sheet. It's still a work in progress, so if you have anything that you think this is missing or needs tweaking, I'm open to suggestions on this. I've got Richard and IT working to get this logo on the home page of our website, and it will link to this fact sheet. This fact sheet also has a link to the actual ordinance on it. Also in your little goodie package here, we have the education campaign that I just outlined. So if you want to take and digest it on paper and make suggestions to me later, I'll be happy to hear those. I've also written somewhat of a letter to the editor. I'm going to be distributing this to not just the local news media, but in area towns like Canyon, Pampa, all the area panhandle towns, in hopes that those people that, or those cities that have publications will print it and share, because a lot of their residents do a lot of business here in Amarillo and certainly need to be aware of the ordinance as well. So with that, I'll pass these out and be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'm not sure how
I think it's a really good campaign, but I tell you that things that we've studied in sales is that it takes 16 times to change somebody's habit, unless you get that cognitive dissonance going because some dramatic change.
3 times to
They get a
hear it.
ticket, but 3 times to hear it, but 16 times to even affect the habit. I think it's important. The only suggestion I'd make is initially, I think it's really good to have a broad media campaign. But I think ongoing, I think radio offers more immediate, because they're driving the car. That's when they're trying to affect them. 90% of the people listen to the radio are in their car driving, I would guess.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question, because do we have $5,000? Is that what we have to do this?
We've got sufficient funding to do this.
Okay, because I just...
Leveraging dollars on radio.
Yeah, I think a lot of radio would be good.
Yeah.
Especially radio, young people, drive times, and young people don't listen to appointment television very much anymore. And so, like I'm going to watch it at 8 o'clock to see the show, it's like, I'll watch it when I want to watch it. I'll get to the commercials.
Like I've recorded the gospel, but haven't watched it yet.
Exactly. Well, there's no commercials in a PBS, so you don't have to zip through commercials.
Thank you.
But
There was a commercial right then.
exactly.
Other than that.
Can we zip right through that?
Yeah, that's right, you can. I'll give you the phone number to call for a donation later. Anyway,
Go ahead, Commissioner. I can't believe they're interrupting
you.
you.
Could just save that much and save for PBS.
And the reason why my emphasis was on television was because that's what the Traffic Commission was suggesting all throughout, and so I
think it's an
I'm way
initial
into radio.
approach, but I think long-term
radio.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think radio has...
I think we need to try out to get on the morning shows or the information show in the
That's
afternoon.
certainly part of it, and that's
Yeah.
where I would like the opportunity to know which one of you I can call on for those opportunities as well.
I'll do it. I'd like to volunteer Jim since he volunteered me to be tased.
I went back and we pulled the tape. I can't get it. Everybody's scared.
I'm the one that got tased. My memory is very clear.
I got one other quick
Moving along
Go ahead.
now.
All right, moving along.
What? Just one other question. I'll be quick.
Your expertise, dig in.
Well, I was just going to say, I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, do you have agreements with like ACWT and AISD and CISD and whatever to do?
I have the material to make those agreements.
Okay, great. Well, because I think that's a great place to do it.
How expensive is this package to buy?
It's free. It's public domain.
Why is it free?
The free
Transportation.
it's free in that we have
Really?
free access to download the
And you can
information.
copy it
There's
as much as you
PSAs that we can tag with our own local
Good.
information. Of course, the cost is in printing anything, whether we print flyers. I'm thinking about doing decals for the or decals. Some people prefer decals. I say decals, but for the vehicles, putting those on like with our Every Drop Counts campaign, how we have those on the back of all the city vehicles. Not just have those on our city vehicles, but make them available for anyone who wants to put them on their car to help spread the word.
What date are we looking at for the implementation? January 1?
Of the education campaign?
No. When, we go through the grace period and then...
Okay, the signs are going up this week. We expect to have them done by Friday, Saturday at the very latest. The traffic department expects to make, or to certify is the correct terminology.
That's a requirement of the ordinance. The ordinance was set up in steps to make this happen.
Right, so they'll certify, they expect to certify with the city secretary first thing before 8 a.m., hopefully on Monday morning, that all of the signs are up. At that time, we will publish in the newspaper at least twice that the ordinance is in effect. After a 10-day period, once that has been published, after the 10-day period of that being published, the ordinance will actually be in effect and be enforceable by law. So from that point on, that 30-day grace period takes effect.
So you're going to be in the middle of January.
Which, based on publication dates, you're looking at your effective date being around December 31, January 1, and you have your 30 days.
Oh, 30 days after. Okay.
So I was thinking January 1.
Well, it's reasonable to educate people for quite a period of time on this.
Well, you'll have had a 60-day run at the education campaign before a real citation.
We're not trying to give citations, we're trying to educate people about the dangers.
Make it safer, yeah. You rattle through all those resources and places where you can disseminate this information. What about PRPC? Because you were talking about the Herefords and the Pampas and such as that.
Yeah,
Out of town
that's a good
people
idea.
that visit and roll and shop here. We need PRPC has a wonderful network.
I was also thinking in terms of, how we're going to initially pass the word along. I think it'd be a good idea to call human resources like at Tyson and find a way to deliver that information in Spanish or whatever other languages they speak out there, because they're not going to be watching the television that you and I are watching.
Right.
And so if we don't get the word out in mass with their help, we may not get their cooperation, or they won't know what they're supposed to be doing unless somebody happens to tell them. And also, since we have such large numbers of employees, like in our healthcare systems, Northwest and BSA, maybe we could provide them with the information so that they could get it out to their employees. And I was just thinking also, as I just came down by the Civic Center, we have all these shows, trade shows like the Farm and Ranch Show right now. It would have been great, for incoming conventions or gatherings, that we provide that information ahead of time to them through the Convention Bureau, so that they will have that and they can disseminate that information to their vendors and participants and so forth, and we can save ourselves a lot of heartache by doing that. But I really think that for some of these big employers that have huge numbers of people, that we might see if we can get them to get the word out for us.
That's a good idea, Commissioner. Maybe Catholic Family Services and some of those organizations can help us get to the immigrant population that we have.
Because they all have cell phones.
And we've all got so many languages.
Public health has got a lot of interaction.
Maybe we do national ability to probably.
And as you're thinking about this, when you're lying awake at night, if anything else pops into your head.
And radio, I heard you say we have Spanish and English versions.
Yes. They're working on getting some Spanish television ads. It's just initial funding, so may not be tomorrow before we see those. If we do any Spanish ones, they'd have to be locally produced.
I think after the first couple of months, we'll evaluate that media again, because the buy changes after a couple of months.
Well, I volunteer to do anything that you want me to do in Spanish, and I don't charge anybody anything for doing that. But here are the two Hispanic newspapers that probably need to get that information. One of them is 50 cents, the other one's free. So.
In La Voz as well.
La Voz.
Yeah, I have the one you just mentioned, and El Domingo.
La Voz Hispana. La Voz Hispana is what it should be.
I have at least two of those on my regular distribution list, so I'll get those out.
The bilingual, yeah.
All right, any other questions, suggestions?
No, it's a good start.
If we could, before we leave it, maybe let Marcus run through that exemption language that's in there. If y'all ask any questions on that.
Be glad to do that. And also, if you would like, what's not in your packet, it would be good to add that it's an actual copy of the ordinance.
Yeah,
I want that for your reference for your speaking engagements.
If I can have it in paper or have us email it, so we'll have it.
You can paper. You can, because the implementation schedule is in there.
It is on the website.
In Section 6 of the ordinance, the publishing and effective date, how that will work is there.
That is the late Greta.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
The ordinance contains several exceptions for when a person can use a handheld telephone while driving. To make an emergency phone call, fire, police, EMS, to contact a hospital, doctor, clinic. You're en route there and it's an urgent thing, you need to talk to them for some reason. There are exceptions. There's a broad one. If you have a reasonable belief that a person's life or safety is in immediate danger, maybe calling your child, get out of the house. The radio's coming, go next door. If you believe there's an imminent danger or threat to life, it's right there in your ordinance. A person can use their handheld cell phone. In that same vein, there is an exception that says a government employee designated first responder or volunteer, when they meet 5 qualifications, they can use their handheld cell phone. We are stricter on them than anyone else. If you need to call 911, call 911. If you need to call your doctor, call your doctor. Keep on driving. But if you're a government official, you have to meet 5 qualifications to use your handheld cell phone while driving. 1, must be acting in official capacity. Well, me calling my wife to see what's for dinner is not official capacity. You have to be acting in official capacity, having an immediate need to send, receive information. Immediate. Can't wait till you get there. You've got to have it now. This information is necessary for such person's immediate duty or task. Now, friends, if it's that urgent, I want them using their phone. Now, why didn't we just limit this to policemen and firemen? Because there are other government officials involved in emergency situations who, in their official capacity, may have an immediate need to send or receive information necessary for that official to do their immediate duty or task. For example, some horrible examples, but examples nonetheless. A government official, well, that could be the school superintendent. There's been a horrible incident at one of our schools, and he jumps up from his house or from his office and gets in his car and forgets his Bluetooth. But he's en route to that scene. Now, do we expect him to not be conveying information, receiving information, exercising command and control, giving directions en route over there? It's a blizzard day, and the city manager has been summoned to the Emergency Operations Center. We've had another mass casualty on I-40, a 40-car pileup. All ambulances in the city and the county have been called. And our city manager is en route to the EOC. Do we not want him to have the ability, and his Bluetooth is dead, doesn't have it available, forgot to charge it last night, and that we'd expect him not to have his phone to receive information and to give direction? This is a highly restricted, highly qualified privilege that you placed in your ordinance. This isn't just for the garbage truck driver to be able to call his wife and see what's for dinner tonight. In fact, we require all city employees to comply with this ordinance. If we catch a policeman driving down the street talking to his girlfriend, he deserves a ticket. He deserves to be disciplined. He's violating the law. This is not a blanket exception for firefighters to be calling and checking on the sports scores. It's 5 qualifications, and if they don't meet all 5 of those, then they commit an offense and they deserve a ticket just like anybody else.
I wrote down 3. Did you need 5?
While acting in official capacity,
Got that.
immediate need,
Got it.
official information,
Okay.
necessary for an immediate duty or task.
Okay.
Well, and I think the other important point is that anybody who's cited and receives a ticket can certainly take that to municipal court. That's why we have judges.
Absolutely.
And can say, these were the extenuating circumstances, and the judge can say, yeah,
It
okay.
meets the criteria.
And in fact, when the officer makes the stop, if a policeman sees me with my cell phone by my ear, they have every right to stop me. Sir, why are you talking on your phone? It's an emergency. I was on 911 right now. There's an emergency.
I saw a shooting down the street or something.
Yeah, whatever it is. That red car ahead of me, he's drunk. And thank you very much. They have the probable cause to stop you. If you have a defense, present your defense. If the officer doesn't accept it, as the commissioner says, that's what the courts are for. There will be prosecutorial discretion, and there's certainly judicial discretion. There are so many exit points, not just for this offense, but for any offense. So, I hope that helps clarify.
It's not too
Yeah.
harshly written, and it's not giving any sway to city employees or government employees. It's making it tougher on them.
Or
There's
city
more
employees.
likelihood a city employee would use their phone to call 911 than it is to use that restrictive.
And if they abuse this, there would be managerial reprimand too. besides getting the ticket. He's going to go on their city record.
And at the end of the day, it's not different than any other traffic law or ordinance. City staff has to follow that as anybody else would.
You know, it's not.
And we've got big targets on the doors,
Yeah.
so people are not shy about calling and saying, "Hey, I think truck X, Y, and Z was doing this." Thank you. We can trace that back.
There is nothing, the mayor's correct, there's nothing unusual about a traffic law having an exception for law enforcement. This past holiday, I had the privilege to take the tour of Texas. We drove from here to San Antonio and then up to Fort Worth and then back to Amarillo. And I began to notice along the highways there are lots of places where it says crossing median prohibited, official use only. You know, where the highway patrolman can turn around, or the TxDOT truck can turn around. It got me to thinking. Actually, it probably distracted me as I was driving, but it got me to thinking. You start going through the Texas Transportation Code, all of the exceptions in traffic laws, you know, except for a law enforcement officer, except for a peace officer, except for there's nothing unusual about having exceptions. And indeed, out of these 5 exceptions, only one of them applies to government employees. Every citizen that drives through this city can exercise other exceptions under this ordinance.
Heaven forbid there ever be a Columbine type situation here.
Heaven
Wouldn't you
forbid.
want everybody pulling up to be as brief as possible when they arrive? I mean, there's nobody that would question that. So, pretty obvious. Good presentation.
Remind me, is this a moving violation?
No, it's deemed not to be one within this, within the ordinance.
Up to 200.
We'll, if you don't mind getting one that has some notes on it, I'll make you some comments.
That's good, because it'll point out
with you.
where
Yeah,
you...
yeah, just
Yeah,
like.
that's good.
Francis will email everybody now. Both sets of it.
You know, when that TxDOT told us in the meeting recently that out of 2,738 deaths as of 3 weeks ago, 27% were caused by texting. I wonder how many additionally were caused by handheld phones. I don't know that number. They don't. But that's 27% of the deaths involve texting.
Something on the email I got about the texting. It's gone now.
So we improved the car so we can kill ourselves with telephone. Great.
Okay. Good job, Sonny. Good job.
Thank you. And so you said it's money like the initial.
Now, the NHTSA is who has the authority to put these regulations on the over-the-road commercial drivers. So I think having that consistent and common message is...
Well, that's an unbelievable fine, too. About $2,700 for the driver the first time they touched, they abused the phone. And the company gets an additional $11,800 fine.
Really?
For the first event.
Because I saw a truck driver doing that online.
Oh, they
That's
did he
amazing.
get? Yeah.
No, I saw him. I had no idea.
What happened is all the companies have put out memos and said, "You're gone. You get one of these, your history.
Hmm.
We aren't going to pay $11,800 for you to use the phone, and you got to pay $2,700 out of your own pocket."
Citizens arrest, you get half the fine.
They know what the danger is.
Yeah, no, honey. Mayor, if we could, we'd like to move to a closed session. We've got some things that we need to cover. So we're going to get through that. Any questions?
Sonia, very good.
Father, clear the room.
Mayor and Commissioner,